On a cold February morning in 1999, the peaceful woods near the intersection of Clifton Spring Road and Clifton Spring Church Road in Decatur, Georgia, were disturbed by a grim discovery. Human remains, partially hidden among the trees, were found by a passerby. The remains belonged to an African-American boy, estimated to be between 5 and 7 years old. He was dressed in a blue and white plaid shirt, red denim jeans, and brown Timberland boots. However, the state of decomposition was so advanced that authorities couldn't determine how or why the boy had died. They also couldn't identify him, and the case quickly went cold. For many years, the little boy's identity remained a mystery, and his case became one of many unsolved tragedies. Then, in May 2020, a tipster breathed new life into the investigation. She had seen an artistic rendering of the unidentified child circulated by authorities and felt a deep sense of recognition. The woman contacted the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, providing information about a woman named Teresa Ann Bailey Black. Black had been living in Charlotte, North Carolina, with her 6-year-old son, William Deshaun Hamilton. In December 1998, she abruptly withdrew William from school and moved to Atlanta, Georgia. Black returned to Charlotte the following year, but without William, offering conflicting stories about his whereabouts. The tipster believed the boy found in Georgia might be William due to their resemblance. This new lead prompted the DeKalb County Police Department and other local authorities to resume their investigation. Early in 2022, DNA testing confirmed that the remains belonged to William Deshaun Hamilton, linking him to Teresa Ann Bailey Black. On June 29, 2022, Black was arrested in Phoenix, Arizona, and she now awaits extradition to Georgia. Authorities have not yet disclosed how William died or the possible motive behind his death. Angeline Hartman, Director of Communications at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, praised the persistence of the tipster. "This case is the perfect example of why we never give up hope," Hartman said. For more than 2 decades, a woman in Charlotte followed her gut, feeling that something wasn't right. She made phone calls, scoured the internet, and talked to anyone who would listen. We're grateful she never stopped until she found that rendering of William online and gave investigators the missing piece to help solve the 23-year-old mystery. Those who knew William remember him as a bright and artistic 6-year-old with a keen sense of humor. Investigators are now seeking the public's help to piece together a more concrete timeline of Black and William's movements during their time in Atlanta. They have discovered that Black worked at a now-defunct Atlanta strip club called Pleasers, and may have received assistance from the Atlanta Day Shelter for Women and Children during a brief period. As the investigation continues, authorities hope to uncover more details about William's life and the circumstances leading up to his tragic end. The dedication of one determined woman in Charlotte reminds us all of the power of persistence and the enduring hope for justice, even after decades of uncertainty. David Evans, a 57-year-old resident of Claremont, California, was a well-respected figure in his community. In 1985, Evans, who had transitioned from a career in education to becoming the vice president at a bank, lived alone following his divorce. On October 13th of that year, Claremont police responded to a possible burglary call at his home, only to discover his lifeless body. Evans had been brutally beaten, suffering fatal blunt force trauma to the head. Evans, a Duke-educated former school superintendent and teacher, was known for his contributions to the community. Despite initial investigations generating a few leads, no viable suspects were identified, and the case went cold. In 2006, advances in forensic technology prompted authorities to revisit the case. They uncovered a small amount of DNA and fingerprints at the crime scene. In 2020, these forensic markers were matched to Hilary Marcus DePlazy. Investigators discovered that DePlazy had lived in the San Gabriel Valley area when the crime occurred, not far from Evans' residence. They also linked him to Evans' stolen vehicle, which was found abandoned in Covina, California, just 2 hours after the murder. On May 2, 2022, Hilary Marcus DePlazy was formally charged with the murder of David Evans. At the time, DePlazy was already incarcerated in a New York State prison, serving a lengthy sentence for a similar crime. He will be eligible for parole in that case in 2033. DePlazy is expected to be transported to Los Angeles soon to face the new charges. Lieutenant Hugo Renaga, speaking about the case, mentioned that they believe they understand du Plessis' motive, but are withholding details until the trial. Renaga expressed gratitude to the investigative team, including members from the Sheriff's Office, Claremont Police Department, New York State Police, and the New York Department of Corrections, for their dedication in bringing long-awaited justice and closure to David Evans' family. In 2005, Antonio Rodriguez, an 80-year-old World War II veteran, and his 77-year-old wife, Luz, were cherished members of the Cleveland, Texas community. Known for their kindness, the couple ran a small Mexican food restaurant from their home, catering to shift workers at a local plywood mill. On April 14, 2005, their daughter, Carolina Tejada, went to their home to prepare lunch. When they didn't answer the door, she entered and was met with a horrifying scene. She found her father's body on the bedroom floor and her mother's body in their bed. Both had been beaten and strangled. Police dogs managed to track the scent of a suspect across some railroad tracks to a nearby apartment complex. But the trail went cold. Investigators found blood from an unknown suspect on a large rug in the Rodriguez home. The DNA was entered into the FBI's Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, but no matches were found at the time, and the case went cold for years. In March 2021, investigators re-entered the DNA sample into CODIS and found a match. The DNA was linked to Shelley Susan Thompson Lemoyne, who was serving time in a Texas prison for an unrelated drug offense. Lemoyne denied knowing the Rodriguez family or being involved in the crime. Another DNA sample taken from her in prison matched the DNA found at the crime scene in 2005. On July 8, 2022, Lemoyne was arrested outside her parole office in connection to the Rodriguez case. Cleveland Police Chief Darrell Brazad emphasized the importance of small pieces of evidence, such as the speck of blood on a piece of carpet found in the home. For the Rodriguez family, this was a significant development in a case that had haunted them for years. Carolina Tejada expressed her belief that more people might have been involved in the crime, while Martin Rodriguez, another of the couple's children, saw the arrest as the first step toward healing. He thanked the Texas Rangers, Cleveland Police Department, and the Liberty County District Attorney's Office for their efforts in restoring hope and faith in the justice system. In 1992, 25-year-old Lori House was living in Mountain View, California, where she worked as a computer engineer. On September 5th of that year, her lifeless body was discovered in her car near a garbage dump, about a mile from her workplace. She had been strangled with a rope that was still around her neck, and footprints were found on the inside of her windshield. Investigators quickly identified a prime suspect, John Kevin Woodward. Woodward was allegedly openly jealous of Lori, as he had developed a romantic attachment to her boyfriend, who was also his roommate. In the late 1990s, Woodward was tried twice in connection with Lori's death, but both trials ended unsuccessfully. A judge dismissed the case for insufficient evidence after the jury could not reach a verdict following the second trial. While Woodward's fingerprints were found on the outside of Lori's car, investigators could not prove that he had been inside the vehicle. After the trials, Woodward moved to the Netherlands, where he later became the president and CEO of ReadyTech, an online training company based in the Bay Area. Despite the setbacks, investigators did not give up on Lori's case and continued to search for new evidence. In late 2020, they resubmitted all the forensic evidence for further analysis. The Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office Identification Unit re-examined over 80 latent fingerprints collected at the crime scene. This re-examination revealed more fingerprints matching Woodward's, placing him in locations that only the person responsible for Lori's death could have touched. John Woodward was apprehended by police at JFK Airport in New York on July 9, 2022, after arriving from Amsterdam. If convicted, Woodward faces life in prison. Deputy District Attorney Rob Baker of Santa Clara County's DA office expressed satisfaction with this second chance to seek justice for Lori after nearly 30 years. He credited advances in forensic science for uncovering new evidence that allowed the case to be reopened. Lori's family issued a statement expressing hope that justice could finally be served and appreciation for the law enforcement agencies that never gave up on her case. To honor Lori's memory, her family established the Lori House Memorial Girls Athletic Scholarship, providing donations to graduating female seniors. In 1975, 19-year-old Lindsay Sue Beechler, lived in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. She had recently gotten married and was settling into her new life. On the evening of December 5th, at around 8:45 p.m., Lindsay's aunt and uncle visited her apartment to exchange recipes. Instead, they encountered a horrific scene. Blood was splattered on the front door, the entranceway wall, and the carpet. Inside, they found Lindsay's lifeless body on the living room floor. She had been stabbed 19 times with 2 different knives and assaulted. Investigators collected all the forensic evidence they could from the crime scene. There were no signs of forced entry, and witnesses reported not hearing or seeing anything unusual. As DNA technology advanced, in 1997, detectives from the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office submitted Lindsay's underwear for DNA analysis. The lab discovered male DNA, allowing them to create a DNA profile of the suspect. In 2019, investigators teamed up with C.C. Moore, the chief genetic genealogist at Paraben Nano Labs. Using the DNA evidence, Paraben created a composite sketch of the suspect. In 2020, Moore used DNA to build a family tree for the suspect, revealing deep roots in the local Lancaster community and connections to many recent immigrant families from the small town of Gaserina, Italy. This search eventually narrowed down to 68-year-old David Sinopoli. Investigators discovered that Sinopoli lived in the same apartment complex as Lindsay back in 1975. To confirm that the DNA left at the crime scene belonged to Sinopoli, authorities began to surveil him. On February 11, 2022, they obtained his DNA from a coffee cup he discarded at the airport. The DNA from the coffee cup matched the male DNA found on Lindsay's underwear. In June, investigators confirmed that 2 spots of blood on Lindsay's pantyhose were consistent with Sinopoli's DNA profile. Detectives had long suspected that the attacker had cut himself during the assault. David Sinopoli was arrested and is currently being held in Lancaster County Prison without bail. Investigators do not believe that Sinopoli and Lindsay knew each other. It appears to have been a crime of opportunity. The breakthrough in the case has brought some measure of closure to Lindsay's family, who have waited decades for justice. We'll keep you updated as more information becomes available. Stay informed, stay safe. Subscribe for more updates. Thank you for watching.